Hi, I know it's been a really long time. For those of you who have joined my channel but haven't seen me in a bit, and for those who are returning, hi, I'm Jerry, and this is ONYX Pages, where we talk about Black science fiction and fantasy. It has been a long time since I have actually done this, like set up the lights, set up the microphone, set up everything to talk to you. And there will at some point be a chatty video about just an update on my life and things and the channel and all of that. But I want to start my renaissance, if I can, with a book haul, because there have been a lot of really interesting books that I've learned about and some interesting books that I have acquired that I would like to share with you because I think you might be interested as well. Stay tuned. All right, so we are back. I need to find a book up here because I purchased its sequel and I feel like I need to introduce you to that book, yes, in context. Okay, so here we go. The first book that I want to tell you about, these are in no particular order, except to say that the ones that I'm going to be talking about at the end are, they're just in envelopes that I haven't opened yet, so I kind of forgot what they were. I wanted to save the books that I got until I had enough of a pile so that I could, give you meaningful content since it's been a while. Okay, so the first book that Tommy's here.
Hi.
As usual, laughing with me. Okay, so the first book I want to tell you about is called Maroons, and it is by Adrian Marie Brown. Adrian Marie Brown is, what is she? What isn't she? So she is, in my view, she is a thinker. She is an afrofuturist thinker. I first became aware of her when I heard about emergent strategy, which actually, that's a lie. I first heard about her when I found out about an anthology of writing that was this is not as organized as it used to be, as I'm sure you can see. There it is. So Octavia's Brood is an anthology of short works. This anthology was put together by Walida E. Marisha and Adrian Marie Brown. I believe what they did was host a bunch of workshops for emerging writers, people who were interested in science fiction, well, afrofuturism in particular, but speculative fiction, near future speculative fiction. And so they put this volume together and they edited it, and it has a lot of really amazing shorts. Oh my God, I can feel my love of books coming back. That's nice. So I remember reading this and thinking, wow, I haven't read Octavia E Butler in a really long time. This might be a nice sort of bridge back into reading all of her backlist. And that's where I first heard about Adrian Marie Brown and Walida E Marisha. And there are some interviews on this channel with Walida E Marisha. I should probably chat with her again because she's amazing and she's done some amazing work. And then I went to a workshop by Adrian Marie Brown in Detroit, and this was a workshop that was based off of her book Emergent Strategy, and it was sort of like an opportunity for people who are thinking about different ways of engaging in activism to come together and to dream through making an impact on social change using principles that Adrian Marie Brown had gathered through her activism work, but also through her reading of Octavia E. Butler's books. So there were all of these interesting principles like iteration or iterative, and other principles, which I'm not going to get into, but iterative was my favorite. But I learned a lot of things from her and became very interested in her way of thinking, in her way of organizing, and her manner of activism. She has since written a number of other books. She's got what's called the Emergent Strategy series. I'm looking at a couple of them right now. She's written a book called Pleasure Activism, which I've started but haven't finished, Holding Change, and a lot of other things. So if you are interested in like reading more about like mundane Afrofuturism, like social justice oriented science fiction or visionary fiction or visionary nonfiction, Adrian Marie Brown is a really interesting person to follow, not only in terms of her talks and her workshops, but the things that she's written. And she's got some great speeches that you can watch on YouTube. In any event, when I found out that she was starting to write long form fiction, I got very excited. So she came out with her first book in a trilogy. And I think she wrote this while she was on sabbatical in Italy, I want to say. But this one is called Grievers. I have not read this, but I will read the synopsis. So Dune's mother is patient zero of a mysterious illness that stops people in their tracks, in mid-sentence, mid-action, mid-life, casting them into a non-responsive state from which no one recovers. Dune must navigate poverty and the loss of her mother as Detroit's hospitals, morgues, graveyards begin to overflow. As the quarantined city slowly empties of life, she investigates what caused the plague and what might end it, following the footsteps of her late researcher father, who has a physical model of Detroit's history and losses set up in their basement. She dusts it off and begins tracking the sick and dying, discovering patterns, finding comrades in curiosity, conspiracies for the fertile ground of the city, and the unexpected magic that emerges when the debt of grief is cleared. So this was published by AK Press. I believe it came out in 2021. And this is the first of the what's called the Black Dawn series, and the first of a trilogy. So I got this because I was really attracted to Adrian Marie Brown's writing. The fact that this is set in Detroit. I'm not sure what the year is, but it was blurbed by Tananarive Due and Ayanna Jameson, who's the founder of the Octavia E Butler Legacy Society, I believe is what it's called. I apologize, I got that name wrong. But yes, I was very excited. So I got this, never read it, but then saw that Adrian Marie Brown has come up with the sequel. And so now I'm thinking, I'm not really sure if I'm going to read if I'm going to start this until the third book comes out. My challenge is my memory. So sometimes when I read a first book in a trilogy, by the time the third one comes out, I've actually forgotten some of the details. I'll remember the general plot, but I'll forget like character names sometimes, or some of the things that I pick up when I'm reading slowly. So I'm not sure if I'm going to start this until the third book is out and then I can read it all together. But this is book 2. This one is called Maroons. And what you can already see just from the story that's being told on the cover is you've got what looks to be the same house, right? So the first one is dark and blue, and then the second one is green and vibrant. And so, yeah, it looks like there's definitely something happening here. Something is being rebuilt. And if you've ever been to Detroit, there are parts of Detroit where you have abandoned homes where the land is kind of taken over and the grass is growing through the windows and things like that. And there's a lot of really vibrant revisioning of what a city can look like. And I just love, and I know Adrian Marie Brown, who lived in Detroit for a while, has a love of Detroit. So we've got Grievers and then we have Maroons. So that is a series that I am collecting and watching, and I'm going to continue following Adrian Marie Brown's work. So at this point, this acquisition is more of a collector's item. I won't be able to have a review of this until probably 2024, 2025 when she comes out with the last book. So just stay subscribed and see what happens. Okay, so the second book that I want to talk about is called We're Here. Now, I found out about this because I was watching, I might have been watching the Ignite. Yes, I was watching the Ignite Awards that is put on by Faya. And this is where I heard about this collection. So We're Here is the best queer speculative fiction. This is of 2021. So I believe this would have come out in 2022 last year. And this is the second edition of this. So I believe that there was the best queer speculative fiction of 2020. I don't have that one. So this is edited by L.D. Lewis and series editor Charles Pacer. And I, of course, love the cover. I hope that this is helping you see the cover. I hope so. So this says, this second volume in Neon Hemlock's yearly series, celebrating the wonder and breadth of queer speculative fiction, contains stories of science fiction, fantasy, horror, and many spaces in between. And it features C.L. Clarke, H. Pueo, Aliette de Bodard, Watson Neath, Sam Miller, Laurel Beckley, Alexandra Seidel, L.A. Knight, Boji Takas, Fargo Baki, Anne LeBlanc, Sherry Kamai, Sharong Biswas, Jen Brown, and Shingai Njeri Kagunda. So there are some names that I recognize, some names that I don't, but I really love what Neon Hemlock is doing. I am very much trying to read more queer work going forward. Adrian Marie Brown is queer, and all of the writers here are queer, and that is that's something that Tomi actually reminded me of this. Like when I started my channel, I really wanted to read Black queer speculative fiction, and I think part of like getting caught up in booktube, which I'll talk about later, but getting caught up in some of like the hyped books, it's very easy to stray away from Black queer spec fic because it doesn't get as hyped up as cis het works. So just trying to focus on why I'm reading and what I want to read specifically. I'm looking forward to this. As you know, if you've watched this channel for a while, it can be difficult for me to read a lot of short works because I get really immersed in a world that's been created for me, and so it can sometimes be fatiguing to read like short story after short story after short story with like deep immersion every single time. So, but in any event, I'm looking forward to this because queer speculative fiction is definitely where it's at. Speaking of which, another queer title. This cover is so cute. This is Speculation by Nisi Shawl. Nisi Shawl is they're an OG writer, and I feel like OG as in was friends with Octavia Butler OG, right? And I don't know if Nisi Shawl has done has written a middle grade or YA novel before, so yeah, let me read this. So this is Speculation. When her little sister breaks her glasses, their grandfather gives Winna an old-timey pair of spectacles that belonged to her great aunt Estelle. The specs are silver and perfectly circular, with tiny stars on the bridge and earpieces that curl all the way around her ears. Best of all, they're magic. Because when Winna makes a wish, beginning with the words, "what if?" that is, when she speculates, the spectacles grant it. Winna wishes she could see ghosts, and soon she meets not only the real Estelle, but Estelle's grandmother, Winona. Nearly a century before, Winona escaped from slavery and ran north with her baby, Key. But Key was stolen from her under mysterious circumstances, and now Estelle and Winona have a mission for Winna: find Key. He's still alive, he doesn't know the whole truth, and unless Winna can solve the mystery and bring him home, a powerful curse called the Burden will smother their family's lives, and Winna's mom could be its next victim. This beautifully written historical fantasy by an award-winning science fiction author offers new twists and turns in every chapter and will have you taking a fresh look at your own family's roots. Okay, so this has magic, time travel, speculation, genealogy, magical glasses, and as you can see the clothes that I'm wearing, this like literally matches my whole look right now, so This is amazing. Also, I can already see a bunch of nods to Octavia E. Butler because Estelle was her middle name. And so I'm not sure if there are going to be other references to her. But there's praise for this book from Maurice Broaddus, who is a prolific writer of Afrofuturism, Samuel R. Delaney, obviously, Ursula Le Guin, Vonda McIntyre, Amal El-Mohtar, and I think that's it. But this is wonderful. So if you're looking to buy a book for young adult or young adults at heart, I think this would be a really great idea. This one was published in 2023, so definitely it should be up for some awards. So I want to make sure that I read this in time for nominations for things. Okay, so the last book of the books that I recently purchased, this is a backlist title, and it's called The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. I haven't read anything to my memory by Micaiah Johnson, and I believe Micaiah Johnson, I want to say that they're based out of the UK. Okay, so I'm wrong. So Micaiah Johnson was raised in California's Mojave Desert, surrounded by trees named Joshua and women who told stories. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing from the University of California, Riverside, and her Master of Fine Arts in Fiction from Rutgers University, Camden. She now studies American literature at Vanderbilt University, where she focuses on critical race theory and automation and automatons. That's cool. She published this 2021. I actually thought this was older than that. Okay, so let me read you the synopsis. Multiverse travel is finally possible, but there's just one catch. No one can visit a world where their counterpart is still alive. Enter Kara, whose parallel selves happen to be exceptionally good at dying, from disease, turf wars, or vendettas they couldn't outrun. Kara's life has been cut short on 372 worlds in total. On this dystopian Earth, however, Kara has survived. Identified as an outlier and therefore a perfect candidate for multiverse travel, Kara is plucked from the dirt of the wastelands. Now, what once made her marginalized has finally become an unexpected source of power. She has a nice apartment on the lower levels of the wealthy and walled-off Wiley City. She works and shamelessly flirts with her enticing yet aloof handler, Dell, as the two women collect all off-world data for the Eldridge Institute. She even occasionally leaves the city to visit her family in the wastes, though she struggles to feel at home in either place. So long as she can keep her head down and avoid trouble, Kara is on a sure path to citizenship and security. But trouble finds Kara when one of her 8 remaining doppelgangers dies under mysterious circumstances, plunging her into a new world with an old secret. What she discovers will connect her past and her future in ways she never could have imagined, and reveal her own role in a plot that endangers not just her world, but the entire multiverse. There's a lot going on in this. Okay, so this is the space between worlds. There's a lot. So there's a queer love situation, which is awesome. There's time travel. There's the multiverse. There's class disparities. And then there's a mystery here. There's kind of like a gritty futuristic urban vibe to this. So I'm ready. This is awesome. And I think it's a standalone novel. I don't know what else Micaiah Johnson has written, but it sounds like she's like maybe doing a PhD or something right now. So yeah, The Space Between Worlds. Okay, so that is it for the books that I know the identities of. Everything else is in an envelope, and of course my scissors are beyond the camera, so I'm just going to rip the rest open. So I know that the next 3 are going to be editions of the Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine. So yes, so this is the magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. So this is the January-February edition. And there is a story from Maurice Broaddus. And I'm not going to look through it right now, but there's this. While I open the next 2 envelopes, which are all the fantasy and science fiction magazine. I just want to let you know that I do think that if you're interested in fantasy and science fiction, I think you should subscribe to the magazine. Not only because it is, I believe, 73 years old, I want to say. It's the longest running science fiction magazine, period. But also its editor right now is Cherie Renee Thomas. And so as a result of that, we are just seeing better content. I'm certainly noticing better content. I'm noticing a more, I think, nuanced approach to why we write, why we read science fiction, fantasy, like just really meaningful editorials, and I think more cohesive choices around like the mix between poetry and science fiction, music, and then some of the more traditional elements of the magazine. So this is this really July, August of 2022? Must be, because unless it's time traveling. So that's July, August. I guess I never opened this one. I don't notice any of the names on here. So we have Nina Kariki Hoffman, Charles Hughes, Robert Levy, and Nick Wolven. So that's cute. I don't love this cover, but you know, it's a cover. So there's that. And then the third one, let's see. As you can see, like I've been in a bit of a reading slump. So it's taken me a minute to, ooh, I like this cover. So this is the November-December 2022 one, and this one says Sacrificial Drones by John Shirley, Vida Cruz Borja, and Bennett North. So, and Sam J. Miller. Don't know any of those names. Again, it's a really great opportunity to learn about writers you haven't heard of. Charles DeLint, I've heard that name before. And then there, you know, sometimes there might be articles or letters in here. Well, no, that's more Locust, but sometimes there can be articles about like things that are happening in the community that that can be helpful if you want to sort of keep up with science fiction community. But I don't want to say that too tough, because I think that there still is a very traditionalist voice to elements of the magazine, which might be good for a lot of people. But yeah, those are the 3 editions of Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine. And then now I have 3 more envelopes, and there's one that I know for sure what's in it, and I'm super excited about it. And we'll see when we get to it. We'll also see if I'm strong enough to open this envelope. Am I enough of a woman to open this envelope? Probably, but it's gonna be hard. In the comments, have you purchased a book recently that you are very excited about? Is this... I'm so happy about this book. I'm so happy about this book. This is... Okay, first of all, look at the cover. This is Drinking from Graveyard Wells by Yvette Lisa Ndlovu, and it's an advanced reader's copy. And even though it's an ARC, I just love that the cover is so beautiful. Sometimes you get ARCs, and but this is beautiful. This is Yvette's first novella, as far as I understand. This was published by University Press, Kentucky. And I believe, wait, it's not a novella, excuse me. It is a collection of short stories, Afro-surrealist short stories. And I'm just so proud of Yvette. There are a number of, you know, I guess, not necessarily emerging writers, but new to me writers, younger writers, Black queer writers who I'm so excited about. And so one is Shingai and Jerry Kagunda, and it's not only because we share a name, although that's important, but it is also because like her writing is so beautiful and her ideas are so gorgeous. So I read And This Is How to Stay Alive, and it was stunning. gorgeous, beautiful. And so, like, I think this needs to be a panel. Yvette and Jerry, will you come on a panel with me so we can talk about how amazing you are and what you're writing? Okay, so Drinking from Graveyard Wells. I received this arc from the publisher, so thank you very much for sending this to me. Okay, so even in death, who has ownership over Black women's bodies? Think about that. Even in death, who has ownership over Black women's bodies? Questions like this lurk between the lines of this stunning collection of stories that engage with African women's histories, both personal and generational. Their history is not just one thing. There is heartbreak and pain and joy and flying and magic, so much magic. An avenging spirit takes on the patriarchy from beyond the grave. Okay. An immigrant woman undergoes a naturalization ceremony in an imagined American state that demands that immigrants pay a toll on the thing they love the most. A first-generation Zimbabwean American woman haunted by generational trauma is willing to pay the ultimate price to take her pain away, giving up her memories. A neighborhood gossip wakes up to find that houses are mysteriously vanishing in the night. A shape-shifting freedom fighter leaves a legacy of resistance to her granddaughter. In Drinking from Graveyard Wells, Yvette Lisa Ndlovu assembles poignantly reflective stories that center the voices of African women charting their own Black history through the ages. Ndlovu's stories play with genre, from softly surreal to deeply fantastical. Each narrative is wrapped in the literary eloquence and tradition of Southern African mythology, transporting readers into the lives of African women who have fought across space and time to be seen. Drawing on her own early experiences as a Zimbabwean living under the Mugabe dictatorship, Ndlovu's stories are grounded in truth and empathy. Ndlovu boldly offers up alternative interpretations of a past and a present that speculates upon the everyday lives of a people disregarded. Her words explore the erasure of African women while highlighting their beauty and limitless magic. Immersed in worlds both fantastical and familiar, readers find themselves walking alongside these women, grieving their pain and celebrating their joy, all against the textured backdrop of Zimbabwe. Yvette Lisa Ndlovu is a Zimbabwean Sarungano and an MFA student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst who received her BA from Cornell. Her work has been supported by fellowships from the Tin House Workshop, Breadloaf Writers Workshop, and the New York State Summer Writers Institute. I think I referred to Yvette Lisa Ndlovu as a Black queer writer, and I'm not sure that she is. I know that she is an African woman writer. So yes, this was blurbed by P. Jelly Clark, author of Ring Shout, who says, "Mesmerizing and magical, these tales will stay with me, perhaps even haunt me for some time to come." And if you, like me, are familiar with Ring Shout, because I read it and loved it, and it's supposed to be here, but there it is. So the writer of this, which I loved, said you will love this. So both of these things should happen in your life. So that's Drinking from Graveyard Wells. Yay. Okay. The next one that I am going to open. Oh, I think I know what this is. Oh, it's two things. Okay. So, it's the same thing. Okay. So this is Voodoo Knots Presents Reliving Mythology, a collection of Black magical stories and poetry. This was edited by Shingai and Jerry Kugunda, Yvette Lisa Ndlovu, H.D. Hunter, and L.P. Kindred. Okay, so the person who wrote this and the person who wrote this, they also helped to anthologize this. So the four of these beautiful Black people, they are the sort of founders, coordinators, and co-founders of Voodoo Knots, which is a workshop, for Black writers. And so I believe that all of these stories came from the last round of Voodoo Knots, like their workshop, which is cool. Oh, and I got things. So I got this beautiful. So you know this art. This is Paul Lewin. Baby, do you want this? Do you know who this is?
Yeah.
Do you want it?
Paul Lewin, yeah.
Yeah. And then also I got stickers, of which you'll get one. Okay. This is Paul Lewin. His work is amazing, and you'll see it all over the place. Okay. So this is from the Voodoo Knots Afrofuturist Collective for Black Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers. When a desperately mundane woman borrows clothing from her mother, a Sukuyan goes searching for her skin. A Nigerian parent climbs mountains to heaven to steal a name and glorious destiny for their newborn. A master tailor gets her skills tested when a spectral customer enters her workshop and she can't say no. A preacher casts dark magic from his pulpit when the word ain't enough to run his church. These tales and more populate Voodoo Knots' present Reliving Mythology. Culled from the imaginations of its inaugural fellows and a handful of solicited authors, including Christopher Caldwell, T.L. Kuchu, and Eden Royce, Voodoo Knots curates a coterie of short fiction and poetry that paints across the breadth of magic and blackness. Co-editors, founders, Shingai Njeri Kagunda, Yvette, Lisa Ndlovu, Hugh H.D. Hunter, and L.P. Kindred ask Black writers to interrogate their mythologies, folklore, superstition, and wives' tales to create the book within your hands. So that is amazing. Reliving Mythology, a collection of Black magical stories and poetry. Also very beautiful and sweet. Okay, so this is the last book. This is the last package in the haul. Are you excited? Yeah. It's the last one. I hope it's a book. I hope it's not like a towel. Okay, so...
You think it's a book?
Okay, so this is a novel called Darknesses by Lachelle Seville. And I do not know how I found out about this. I want to say I was on... It was so weird. It was so subtle. Like, it might have been Chloe's channel. Something. But I feel like this is... it's definitely long. Oh, yeah. I think it's a lesbian vampire novel or something. It's got a content warning. And let's see what... Yeah, it is. Because... on the opening cover, it has a quote from Dracula and a quote from the Bible. I'm like, right up there. Content warnings. So it is, yeah, it goes back and forth in time because I'm seeing, oh wait, does it? 2019. Oh, all 2019? I think this is I think it's a Black lesbian retelling of Dracula. But I could be wrong. I remember being very excited when I saw this because you know how I love a vampire novel. Okay. All it says on the back is no silver, no crucifixes, no holy water, no consecrated iron, no Bibles, no blood feuds, no exceptions. That tells me zero. But let me, you know what? Because we're friends, I'm going to go and see if I can get my phone. And I'm going to see if I can look this up right now because I think it is a Black lesbian.
It doesn't say in the book?
It doesn't say. But I remember being super excited when I found out about this writer. Mm-hmm. And, okay, but I do... And I love vampire... Lachelle is her name? Yeah, Lachelle Seville. While I'm looking this up, in the comments, you can guess at what this story is about. Okay, I found it. So, okay, yes. So, Lachelle Seville is a non-binary writer. Okay, here's the... It's been a year since Oasis stumbled away from Blessed Falls with wings carved into her back and too many scars to count. A year spent raising delusions of being an angel's vessel, proving to her brother that she doesn't belong in a psych ward, and mourning the loss of her mother's vinyl-pressed ashes. A year spent struggling to feel human again. Enter Laura, the mesmerizing stranger. They're always mesmerizing strangers. Who claims to hear Oasis's heartbeat, who reads her handwritten memoir like scripture, who makes her feel closer to found than lost. Laura is the most recent face of the eternal Count Dracula, ruler of the shadows, chimera of the devil, an embittered victim of libel. The Van Helsing Institute has been waiting for a glimpse of the dragon's underbelly and eagerly approach Oasis for her help in a ploy to kill Dracula for good. But not every wound from Blessed Falls has cicatrized, and Oasis realizes she may be a danger to Laura and to herself. Yet no one is as dangerous as Laura, the first vampire, the devil's plaything, and the person with whom Oasis finally feels human. Oceans of time have passed since she last had a drink, and she will not let Oasis go easily. So it's like vampire, queer, like dark, and apparently funny. Who cares what Goodreads has to say about it, because Goodreads is a liar, so here we are. It's a liar. So this is Darknesses. Okay, so that's basically all the books that I want to tell you about. So just as a recap, we have Darknesses, vampire, queer stuff by Lachelle Seville. This is a tome at 467 pages, so there's that. There is Reliving Mythology, short story anthology put together by Voodoo Knots. Definitely a lot of emerging Black queer writers, speculative fiction. We have a short story collection, Drinking from Graveyard Wells by Yvette Lisa Nlovu. We have, subscribe to Fantasy and Science Fiction magazine. We have got Micaiah Johnson, The Space Between Worlds, very like gritty time travel, multiverse, queer stuff. We have beautiful, sweet speculation by Nisi Shawl, magical glasses and middle grade sweetness and genealogy. We've got We're Here, the best queer speculative fiction, collection of short stories, best from 2021. Neon Hemlock, also just check everything they publish because it's amazing. We have got book 2 of Adrian Marie Brown's first fiction trilogy, Grievers and then Maroons. And that's it. Okay, so I don't know when I'm going to be back, to be honest. But also, I'm here now. So why don't you tell me which of the books I've hauled you find interesting? If you've read any of them, what did you think? If you have curiosities around any of them, which ones are you curious about? And what questions do you have? What do you think about the importance of Black queer speculative fiction? I'd love to know your thoughts about that. I've got thoughts about that. I've got a bit of a chatty video in mind, so one day I will share that. Go ahead.
Well, especially now with, books being banned, things are changing.
Yeah.
There's a resurgence of pushback against sort of Black African diasporic literature,
Yeah.
fiction and nonfiction, so it'd be really interesting to hear. And the joyfulness you can get from all those texts and reading. Although, I don't read as much as I should. But
You're reading adjacent.
Yes, so reading adjacent, I love that.
So I think, I was in the train station yesterday and I saw this poster that said Black joy is revolutionary. And I feel like in a time where, as you say, like critical race theory is being banned, it will be these harder to identify speculative stories that might slip under the radar, and that it may be through fiction that you'll start to get a lot of this analysis. So I think that's one of the reasons why this work is so very important right now. But
and the messaging is sent to people who may not have access to the materials in the same way that you and I have.
Yeah.
It may take another generation of people to be like, enough is enough with this, malarkey.
Yeah.
And then a shift back. I think we'll shift back to more progression, but in the interim, look what happens to the young Black youth who that's the source of where they can find, who am I, right? And go to the materials and at least have a conversation in their mind and hopefully be able to connect to somebody across the internet safely
Yeah.
to
That part.
discover what it means to be Black and queer or 2S LGBTQ and all of the intersections.
Yeah.
So, well, you bring that with your channel and the materials that you share.
Thanks.
You bring that into focus. So I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you too. And that was a word from Tomi. All right, everyone. Remember to read with purpose. And when you do, please tell me about it in the comments. See you next time. Bye.